on to some business. So let's talk a little bit about skincare. You know, I think we're going to kind of focus this talk around really the anti-aging process, because I think that's what most of us are concerned about. And here at Dermatology Center of Atlanta at our Advanced SkinCare store, we talk a lot about the core four. And so I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that, about what the core four is and how it helps. But I think if you're looking for a good, solid anti-aging regimen, this is wonderful. So we'll start with the first core, which is sunscreens. So
yes,
you want to tell us a little about sunscreen?
Sunscreen,
Kris?
yes, sunscreen. I get the most popular question I get is, do I need sunscreen every single day? And the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
For several reasons. One, sunscreen slows down the aging process and also helps prevent skin cancer. So we do recommend a sunscreen that is at least an SPF of 30 to 50. If pigmentation is an issue, we recommend something a little bit higher. Maybe something that has infrared protection in it. And you are going to use these every day. We have every type of sunscreen you could imagine. We have sunscreen for oily skin, for dry skin, for aging skin, for people that hate the way sunscreen feels. We have an answer for that. So the key is to come in, try some on. We will find one. We have clear sunscreen, tinted sunscreens. We will find one that looks good on your skin, feels good on your skin, and you will want to wear it every day.
And I think that's the big thing with the skincare regimen as we go through things. You know, consistency is key. I think you have to do the right thing day in, day out, every day. If we had a core one, it would be sunscreens. It's so important. And I think to Kris's point too, you know, she's talking about all the different types we have. If you notice, like what we offer, I really cherry pick a lot of the lines. I try and find the best skincare lines that have the best science behind them. And then within those lines, a lot of times we're cherry picking out products, which is why sometimes we only have we have a limited amount of growth factors, smaller amounts of some other products. But with sunscreens, we have a ton. And it really is for the reasons Kris said, depending on your skin type, how it feels, how you want to look. Everybody's different. It's so important. We want to kind of give you a good offering. So we also want to show you, I guess, a few of our favorites too, just to help you make decisions if you're still trying to figure out how to take advantage of our advanced skincare sale. So which ones of here, Kris, do you feel like are really popular?
The Elta MD is a very popular sunscreen.
The UV Clear.
The UV Clear, yes. It is very lightweight. It has niacinamide in it, which is an anti-inflammatory. Great for redness, great for acne-prone skin, and just very lightweight feeling. But it also comes in a tint, so it can just kind of give you a
little bit of coverage.
Little coverage, yes.
You just need it.
So that is that's two of our number one sunscreens. And then we also have the IntelliShade.
Which I love the IntelliShade.
Which is for aging skin. It is tinted, and it comes in original, matte, physical, so we have several options in that, and a lot of us use that as our foundation.
Yeah, and we should mention, you know, these sunscreens, they have, you know, different active ingredients. We have physical sunblocks, which are and then oxide, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. We have chemical sunscreens too. So depending on what your wants and needs are, we have a variety with that. One of our favorites is...
This one's fun.
Yeah.
This is a fun sunscreen. This is actually a powder. It is an all mineral sunscreen. It's 22% zinc, and
can you see that?
That is it.
Yeah.
You can just see.
It powders up.
So
that's
2 circles and you're covered.
Yeah, so that's one of those things where I think if you need a touch-up, like you put your sunscreen on in the morning and then you need to reapply, you don't want to mess up your makeup, that's the perfect sunscreen.
Yes.
We actually have people use it in their parts, like if you're someone whose scalp burns, that's a good one. So that's a...
tennis players in between sets.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yes.
Yep, that's a good one.
So, and great for children. You can get they'll stand still, they'll let you get their little ears.
Yeah, I think it's
so, and it does come in 4 different shades.
Yeah, so that's good too. And then this is a really good one too. So if you're a pigment, you know, I talked about in the very first news Zoom, I talked about skin tone issues. We talked more about procedures, and I promised that we would talk a little bit more about products in this one. So if you are struggling with pigment, I really like the Skin Medica's Total Defense and Repair, because it Also protects against infrared light and also heat. So those are two things. Heat, we're learning, does play a role in pigment too. So that's a nice one if you're looking to help, I think, with pigment.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to core two. So second core is retinoids. It's a big category. And these core four, I want to remind you guys too that these are not specific products, but they're just broad categories. And I think, making sure that you stay within the box of that topic or that category is really important. So like retinoids, for instance, when I say that, people go, oh, you mean Retin-A, which yes, Retin-A is in that category, but a lot of my patients find Retin-A a little bit irritating. It's sometimes hard, I think, to jump right into that.
Yes.
We do have things that are in that prescription strength that we offer, but honestly, most of our patients will start something that's a little bit gentler to the skin. Like we have something called a retinol, which is a retinaldehyde. We have retinols, which is the alcohol form, and then the prescription is retinoic acid. So if you remember from high school chemistry, you had aldehydes, alcohols, acids. So it depends, and really the aldehydes are the gentlest ones. It's a good intro one. Retinoids actually stimulate collagen and elastin production, so it helps to smooth the skin. It makes the texture look better. It's probably the most well-studied anti-aging skincare product out there. So it's been out since the 70s. If you're super lazy and you're like, I can't do a core 4, I want to do a core 2, you're graduated from the core 1, the second thing would be a retinoid, don't you think?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so we have like the Retrinol, the prescription, the Renova, we've got Refisa's prescription, the retinol we like is by SkinMedica. There's different strengths.
Yes.
Don't get caught up in the number. You need to do what is comfortable for your skin. So you really want to just take your time. We often tell people just to go slow in the beginning and then ramp up. So you, when you're about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way done with the tube, you can always let us know, and we'll kind of help guide you as to what your next selection should be, or if you should even move up.
If you should move up.
Yeah.
Some people with really sensitive skin, we keep them down.
Yeah.
And they do great with that.
Yeah, as long as you're doing it consistently.
Yes,
yeah.
consistent.
Okay, so let's talk about the third core, which is antioxidants.
Yes, antioxidants. Our skin is exposed to free radicals every day.
Yeah.
So Dr. Gray, free radicals.
Yeah, free radicals are bad actors. Free radicals will just eat up your collagen, your elastin, and they're formed when your skin's stressed. So it can be from sun, it can be smoke, alcohol, stress, pollution. There's a lot of reasons. And so basically your antioxidants act as a free radical sponge. So they're going to pick up that free radical and protect you from before it can eat up your collagen and elastin. So we love our antioxidants for that reason. They come in some different formulations, though. That's important. There's a lot of actually different antioxidants out there, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
there are, but the formulation is really key. The pH has to be exactly right, and the way it's actually packaged affects how it works with the skin also. So we do recommend that you choose a medical grade antioxidant.
Yeah.
And
the concentrations, I think,
Yes.
matter too. So there's a lot of stuff. I think that and growth factors, I guess, but antioxidants definitely are picky, and you really do need to have them correctly manufactured for them to be really active in your skin.
Yes.
Okay, so we want to go over some of your favorites?
Sure. Yes, we have one of the favorite. SkinCeuticals has been around for a long time and is very, very popular. Floritin, we tend to move towards Floritin if pigment is really a problem and really an issue, which we fight pigment every day. CE is also, we use that if the skin is a little bit drier.
Yeah, the CE ferulic has kind of they're both serums, but I think the CE ferulic has kind of I don't want to say oily, but it's just like a richer feel to it. Yeah, and then the Floritin, like Kris was saying, if you are someone who struggles with pigment issues, that's kind of one of our most popular ones.
Yes.
And then if you kind of prefer something more lotion-based,
we have the C+ from Revision. We've also found that if you struggle a little bit with sensitive skin, the C+ really helps with that also. It helps with redness.
Yeah. And then, when you put the antioxidant on matters too.
Yes. The antioxidants are going to go on first thing in the morning after you cleanse your face.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the fourth core, which is our growth factors and peptides. Really, growth factors are a type of peptide, and they both are kind of just signaling. They have signaling functions that kind of instruct your skin to produce more collagen, elastin, again, the things that kind of help your skin look and feel a little bit more youthful. So what ends up happening is you have a thicker epidermis, a thicker dermis. It helps with repair functions as well. So really at the end of the day, you've just got a reduction in just some of the common things that you see with aging. So your skin looks a little bit, refreshed, not quite so dull. The tone's a little bit better, the texture's a little bit better. How a growth factor or a peptide is manufactured is super important. We've got a couple of our most popular ones here.
Yes.
So our TNS Advanced Serum Plus Serum is probably it's our powerhouse right there. That one is packed with peptides and with growth factors.
Yes.
BioCream is
Yes.
another one, nice and really hydrating.
Hydrating,
too.
very rich.
But these also come in different formulations too, where
Yes.
some are for oilier skin. So we have different
But
formulations.
yeah, we have
like that,
BioGel for oilier skin. So we have different options to pick from.
too. Yeah. So so when you're starting these products, I think it's important to. I want to talk a little bit about something that we call rotational therapy, because what I see a lot of times is I think people get really excited about a skincare regimen. They start something and then they stop it and they don't know what to do next. So I think the biggest thing, and I think what makes Kris so valuable, she's a wonderful educator. You are, and she loves to teach, and I love to teach. And I think it's why we're doing our noon Zooms, is so you guys can learn about what you're doing. And I think it's really important that you understand if you have a product in your hand and it is going on your face. I want you to know why you're doing it. I also want you to know when you squeeze the last pump, what you should do next. And that's kind of where we really want to help you with that. And so a lot of times that what happens, especially I think here in Georgia, because our humidity goes from, super hot, humid summers, and then all of a sudden it's bone dry and it's cold. So a lot of people will rotate. And by that, I mean, you might go from maybe a sunscreen that in the summer is a little bit not quite as rich, maybe you're using the powder because you're oily, but all of a sudden you get to the winter and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so dry, and we'll help to switch you to something that hydrates a little bit more. Or a lot of times, Kris was talking about the antioxidants and going from a serum maybe to a lotion. So I think it is important sometimes to rotate these products, and we definitely like to help and educate you through those changes. Pigment, we'll talk about that again for a second, because that's, I think, where rotational therapy is really important. Hydroquinone is a prescription, at 4%, which we usually use 4 to 6% here, but it's prescription. It is a potent anti-pigment product, but you also want to take these hydroquinone holidays. And when you do, so typically what we'll have you do is use your hydroquinone until it's gone, and then take 2 or 3 months off, and we switch you to a non-hydroquinone skin lightener, and then you rotate back on, and round you go. So again, it's things that we kind of help guide you through so that your skin really gets the best results you can with these products. So you might be someone who's been doing a skincare regimen forever, so some of this information might be really helpful, where you might be able to cherry pick some stuff out of it. You might be a complete beginner. And that's kind of one of our favorite things.
Yes.
Kris especially, I think loves to educate when you're just either starting a skincare regimen, or maybe you have I've had this happen, the same regimen you had since you're 15. You're still using your 1006 or
you're proactive.
That you've had forever. So I think when you're starting, you're trying to go, I need an anti-aging regimen. How do I start? I think that's important. We're going to talk briefly about that. So we always start with an evaluation.
Yes.
And what are you looking for?
Well, you come in and we want to know what your concerns are. What's really bugging you. And then we also evaluate what kind of skin, what's your skin type? Are you oily? Are you dry? Are you sensitive? And then we just kind of tiptoe into the products, usually gradually adding 1 or 2 products at a time until we get you up to our core 4.
Yeah, I think what's important is also what your current skincare habits are. You have to be honest with yourself. Some people are a little bit like skincare junkies, I call them, and they have tons of stuff, but they're just honestly sometimes spinning in circles when you listen to what they're doing. And it's I've had some women who have literally thousands of dollars of skincare products in their medicine cabinet, and they don't know what they're using it for, and they're just kind of going around and around. And I think I think it's really important to be very specific about what you're doing. You want to save time, money, effort by being very precise about how you're using the products, what you're doing, how you're putting these on the skin. So we really want to make sure that as you add these things, number one, that you really are going to use them. Because like we said, consistency is key. You've got to be doing this for the long term. And so having things like you were talking a lot about how things feel. And I think especially because Kris works a lot at that desk and is helping people with samples. And a lot of times it is interesting how I love something, it feels moisturizing,
and you try it on a patient and they go,
it's
no,
greasy.
that's not for me.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Like
So you have to, you know, just because like we might say something's wonderful, if it does not feel good to you, don't use it. We'll have other options for you because we want you to find things that you can use for the long haul. So once we kind of know, you know, what your problems are, what your skin type is, that's really important too. You know, we talked a lot about pigment. I want to talk a little bit about if you're someone who has rosacea or sensitive skin, that we really have to go low and slow, with that, because anything that ever stings or burns your skin, if it makes you flush, blush, turn red, it irritates you, you really shouldn't use it. Again, sometimes people go, but it's supposed to work. This is a good product, so I don't care that it's doing this because I'm going to get an effect. I'm like, no, you have irritation. That's not a good effect. That's not what we're going for. So we really want to make sure that we're treating you appropriately if you're one of those people. So when we build a regimen, what do you usually start them with, Kris?
We usually start with a sunscreen.
Yeah.
And a retinol.
Yeah. So starting low and slow. And I think when we're starting with the retinoids, like we talked about, a lot of people, if you're just starting, you know, the retinol, the retinaldehydes, the lower strength one's probably the place to start, especially if you're more sensitive. Mm-hmm. And typically what we'll do, we start them every other night. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For about every other night for a week. If you do fine, then we'll go to every night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And make sure the skin is going to tolerate it. We do not want you peeling and flaking, and that's not the result.
Yeah, so I'll choose like every other night, couple weeks, 2. So, and then you just bump up. Now, as far as bumping up, so if you're done with your retinoid, I tell people when you're 2/3 or 3/4 of the way done, let us know, because that's when we might give you the stronger strength. So in other words, if you were on a 0.05 retinol, and you know you're about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way done, which sometimes is tricky because I wish they were clear bottles, but they're not. But when you're about that far done, if you can figure it out, let us know, and we might bump you to the next stronger one, because then what you can do is alternate between the weaker one and the stronger one every other night until that one's gone. Now you're on the stronger one and you continue with that. And we continue on with that. So we go from maybe then we move you up to the retinols, and then then we move you up to the prescription. But take your time with it. I think that's really important too, and make sure that your skin's comfortable. We don't want you visibly flaking or peeling with your skincare regimen. Okay, so let's talk about, I want to tell you a little story about a patient I saw recently, which I don't even think I told you about this, but so, because people will often ask after we talked about this, you've built your regimen, you've done all these things, can skincare alone make a difference? It can. And so I saw actually as a filler patient of mine recently, and she was so cute and she was so excited. She rips off her mask. She goes, "You got to look at my skin. Look at my skin." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that looks great." And she said, "It's only been 3 months." And she said, "I went over to the Advanced SkinCare Center. I saw Kris, and I have been doing this consistently." And she said, "I don't know why I didn't do this before." She's like, "It is so easy, and I am so excited about how much better my skin looks." And she goes, literally it takes me 2 minutes a day. She goes, "What was I thinking?" Which I think is awesome, because it is so true that I think a lot of times we just wait, we don't know, we don't know what to do. And she kind of had the information, she knew it was right for her skin, she's comfortable, and she was super excited. And so we actually have a picture for you guys too to look at. This is actually from a Visius. So Kris does these consults.
Yes.
Skincare consultations, cosmetic consultations with the Visia.
Yes.
Our Visia is awesome.
It is a computerized analysis of the skin. So it tells us all the good, bad, and the ugly. It tells us what's on the surface and what's below.
Yep. So it'll give you kind of a ranking based on your age, so it can be humbling. But for things like skin tone, texture, pore size, fine lines, wrinkles, red spots, brown spots, all these different parameters. But it's helpful. I think sometimes people are hesitant to do the Visia because they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see how bad my skin looks. But knowledge is power. I think if you know what your issues are, it makes it easier for us to kind of guide you a little bit. So I want to bring up, Allison, if you can bring up the first picture.
Yes.
Thanks. So can you tell us a little bit about this lovely patient?
This is one of my favorite patients. She came in and she had really just not really done hardly anything at all. And she didn't know where to start. So we gradually started her on Core 4. She was not interested in filler, Botox, chemical pills.
No procedures.
She was not interested in any of that.
That picture's nothing.
No, nothing.
That's just skincare.
Yes, so
and what's the timeline? Like how long?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
So I think that's amazing. And if you look, I looked closely at that picture, and her texture looks so much
She
better.
looks so much younger.
Yeah, she does.
2.5 years later.
Yeah.
Her texture, the fine lines, everything is just so much smoother and softer.
Yeah, those Visia pictures are not the best Visia pictures, but she looks good.
Yeah, she looks really good. Yes, and she has kept up with it and gradually advanced to some very light procedures, and she just keeps looking younger every time she comes to see us.
And that's so nice. And it's just those things about like what you want to do, what are your goals, what do you want to accomplish, and I think that's really fun. And we are here to be your cheerleaders too, because it's yours. We get giddy. She'll come over and show me, look at this patient. But it is really fun to kind of be able to visually see these things, or just like with that patient that told me in the room the other day how thrilled she was. It's so nice and gratifying to hear those success stories. So I want to kind of briefly touch on a little bit about specialty products. We didn't really talk about that. We talked a lot about our Core 4 anti-aging, which is important, but I just want to mention that if you have specific issues, like we do have different eye creams. I think eye creams are really important because you do need specific formulations that are just for the eye area. I'll be honest, I rotate through a lot of them. I think they're important, but I don't know. I haven't found one personally that was like, that's like my be-all, end-all product, but I love them all for different reasons.
Yes, and the skin is very thin underneath the eyes, so it is a number one complaint when people start.
Yeah. So it's important.
Yes,
so if
I
you
really
have an issue
am
there,
bothered by my eyes.
Yeah, so that's important. We have neck creams too that help to kind of help with the texture, help to firm a little bit. Moisturizers. So Core 4 doesn't really mention moisturizers, but if you're someone who is dry, yes, you can gear your Core 4 towards dry skin, but especially in the winter, you might find you need more. There's a lot of options there too, correct?
There's hyaluronic acids, there's all kinds of moisturizers. Sometimes we cocktail them together and make them work for you.
Yeah, finding how to stay comfortable. So again, that gets into rotational therapy too, where you might have the moisturizer for the cooler months and then drop them when we get to the summer months. Rosacea, sensitive skin, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but there are some products that we will gear towards those types of people. And then pigment, again, I keep coming back to that. I did the skin tone noon Zoom first, and said I would talk about pigment. And so I do want to just kind of mention a few quick things about pigment because I think it is a big problem or issue for a lot of people. First is with the sunscreens, and Kris had mentioned it in the beginning, is we said SPF 30 to 50, but if you are a pigment sufferer, you do want to be on the higher end, 40 to 50 for sure. The reapplies are hugely important. I cannot emphasize that enough because a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not out that much or I'm indoors. It makes a difference.
Yes, it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Using the right antioxidants, the right growth factors, and then getting on the correct bleaches. So when we are bleaching the skin, we're talking about either prescription hydroquinones or we've got some other non-hydroquinone skin lighteners. I think it's important to kind of get that solid, and that's also something where can you make an improvement with just skincare to someone with a pigment issue? You can, and actually we've got another great picture of one of your patients, right, Kris? So Allison, if you can get the next picture up for me, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. This next patient came in. She actually came in June, and she was so frustrated. She had so much pigment and had been working on it with everything you could imagine to try to make it better. And so we got her on Core 4. She didn't do any other procedures. We was
And a bleach,
strictly,
right?
Yes,
And
a
a bleach,
bleaching
yeah.
cream.
Mhm,
Yes, and a bleaching cream, and it was amazing the results you got. You can see the difference
I
that it
think-
made just in. I mean, it was first was 4 months.
So between the first picture and the second picture is 4 months, and then the second picture or the first picture, the last picture is
9 months.
9 months.
Yes.
So I want to point out one thing is that I don't know if it's on the picture or not, but the first picture it was in June, and the next picture was in October, and so she actually improved after the summer, so so June is kind of before the summer starts, and October is like after when everything, really people a lot of times have a lot of their pigment flaring. We see a lot of people in September, October that come in after a bad summer. So she made improvement even through a summer month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can make a change. Those are great pictures. I want to thank you, Kris, for all your help and for the great busy is and for sharing those with us and also sharing your wisdom. And I want to thank you guys for being such fun participants for our whole week of Customer Appreciation Week and our noon Zooms.